Hello everyone, Nadezhda here, and in today's lesson we are going to learn how to create and set up the MEP model in Revit. This lesson is not going to be so much about modeling, but about the creation of the model in a way where you are going to have the organized work and where you are going to set up everything you need before starting your modeling work. First, we are going to learn how to link the architectural model, how to take the coordinates from that model, and also how to create the grids and levels from that model. We are then going to learn how to set up our views, how to set up our project browser, and also how to set up our spaces, zones, and everything we need for the beginning of the project. So let's begin. First, I click on the new project, and here I click Browse to pick my template. I go back and I will click the mechanical default metric and click Open. I click OK, and now I'm ready to begin. I will delete these default views, and first thing I do is I'm going to click on Link Revit. I'm going to then find the architectural model that I'm going to be using, and I will just use this course project. And in the positioning, for now, it doesn't matter what you choose because our model is still not georeferenced, and it doesn't matter whether you choose center or internal origin. So I click just center to center and then click Open. Now my model is linked, and the next thing I do is I take the coordinates from this model, because generally architectural models should be georeferenced. That means they should be positioned in the right coordinates, and all other disciplines should take those coordinates automatically from that model. So I go to the Manage and I go to the coordinates and I click Acquire Coordinates. I click on the architectural model and I get this message that says that the coordinates are acquired. I click Close, and now what happens is that this model should be in the right coordinates. When I use the Spot Coordinate tool, I can see that I have the actual coordinates here. If it is not correct, these coordinates are just going to show some weird numbers like 1, 2, 0 or something that doesn't have many decimals. Of course, it is good to check in the AutoCAD files whether these coordinates are correct. What happens now is also once these coordinates are correct, we are also going to be able to link all of the other disciplines directly. We are not going to have to move anything manually to set up these placements of the models. Of course, like I said, this does require for everyone else to also go through the process of georeferencing and for everybody else's coordinates to be correct the same way these coordinates are. We also get the option of setting up the orientation, because currently it is default to Project North, but once we are creating our site plans, we will be able to choose the True North here and then set up the position to be in the True North. Of course, if we don't georeference our models, we're not going to be able to create site plans correctly from Revit. I'm just going to go back to Project North, and the next step is actually taking the grids and levels from this model to our model. Of course, now you could just copy these grids and levels, or you could just draw the new ones, but the correct option is actually copy monitoring it. We do this because we do want to have the proper coordination with the architectural model, and we do want to know if somebody moves some grids or levels, because essentially these elements are the most important elements from our project, and we do want to have the full coordination of these elements. So I'm going to go to the Collaborate tool and I go to the Copy Monitor option. I choose Select Link in order to just copy this link, and I go to the Copy option. I choose all of these grids and I copy them to my model. I copy each one of them, and as I am copying them, you can see that this little symbol is being created, and that symbol means that these grids are now copy monitored. I click Finish. Now I'm going to do the same for levels, and then I'm going to show you how to actually do this coordination later on. So I will create one section. I will create it somewhere where I can just take in a lot of the area, and I will just change the depth. I do this because I want to be able to see those default levels that are created, and I'm just going to delete those default levels from my model, and I'm just going to click delete, and as you can see, all of these floor plans are going to be deleted. And I don't need them because later on I'm going to create my own floor plans. They will be named appropriately with the new levels we are going to be copy monitoring. So we are going to click OK here and just let it delete everything that exists here. And now I do the same copy monitor for levels as well. I go to the collaborate option, I go to copy monitor and I select the architectural link. I choose the copy option and I'm just going to click this select multiple. I don't have to select one by one and I'm just going to select all of these levels and click finish. Now we make sure that we have these symbols again, so we know that basically these are going to be copy monitored. But before we continue with the lesson, let's hear a word of a sponsor, which is also actually me. As you know, I have built a course where I teach you how to go from the basics or intermediate level all the way to the advanced level, where you are able to produce the entire Revit project all on your own or in the company in large teams. In this course, you aren't just watching videos, but you're actively doing exercises that are designed to level up your Revit skill. Each exercise contains the comments panel where you can actually ask questions, and I answer all of these questions the same day. Whether you are a complete beginner or you are transitioning from the AutoCAD or you are the intermediate user of Revit, this course is designed to give you the confidence to start working in Revit fully independently or in the teams. You can check out the list of lessons on the Beam and Tonic website, and I hope to see you in the course. So let's continue with this lesson. What happens now is we get the communication between architectural and MEP link. That means basically if I were to accidentally move this level, I get this coordination monitor alert. Essentially, I get notified if any of these main elements are moved in any way. I can also go to the coordination review here in Collaborate and click select link, and once I select this architectural link, I will be able to see the list of all of these moved elements. I will also be able to take the action, because once I click on this level, and if I have more elements, I can click show just to see which elements these are, and we can see that in this case this B1 level has been moved. And I can either choose postpone, which is basically leaving it as it is. I can choose reject, I can choose accept, or I can click move if I want to return this level to be on the original place where it was in the architectural model. If I want that, I click OK, and as you can see, I have this automatic movement of the level. It also works the other way around. If the architectural model moves something in our coordination review, we will get that listed here, and the process will be pretty much the same. Our next step is now creating these ceiling plans and these floor plans, because as you can see, all of these were deleted once we have deleted those default levels. I go to the view and I go to the plan views and I go to the first floor plans and I create all of these plans that I need for the MEP project. I select everything that I need and I click OK. The same goes for the reflected ceiling plans. You click on reflected ceiling plans and you click all of these plans and click OK. And now I'm not sure where exactly did they go. I click on this coordination and I can see that ceiling plans went here in the ceiling plans in coordination and floor plans went to this folder. Obviously, this is not very organized, so I right click on the browser organization and I can see that it is organized by discipline. I click edit and here I can see now in grouping and sorting how exactly it is organized by default. It is organized by discipline and then by subdiscipline and then by family and type. That means essentially once I select all of these plans, I can see that the discipline is coordination as it is here and the subdiscipline does not exist. So here we can choose basically which subdiscipline we want, and I'm going to choose HVAC and I'm going to place it here. Now these question marks disappear and it is organized well. Also, instead of coordination, the discipline I'm also going to choose to be the mechanical one. And as for section, the same thing goes. You choose mechanical discipline and subdiscipline you choose HVAC. Of course, whatever subdiscipline you are doing, you're going to be choosing that here. Now, this is the most default way of organizing your project browser. If, however, you want a little bit more advanced, a little bit better way of organizing it, I actually have created that lesson and I'm going to post it in the description below, how to organize your project browser. If you use that method, it is going to be a lot easier for you to organize your project, especially if you are working on a complex project. And the next step is creating your system. So whichever systems are going to be existing in your project, you're going to scroll down to the families, and in the families you have the duct systems and you also have the piping systems. Once I open these folders, I can see that I have the default exhaust air, return air, supply air. Also in the piping systems, I also see that I have all of these piping systems that are default. Of course, you are going to be needing more of these systems, and they are easily created by actually duplicating the existing ones. When I double click on, for example, the exhaust air, I can see some of its main properties and I can see the graphic overrides. I can see that the color is green, and that means basically whenever I create something in the exhaust air system, for example, I will go to the system, I will choose the duct and I will choose the exhaust air system. And by the way, you will always have this process before actually modeling it something. You are going to be choosing which system it is going to belong to. So once I choose the exhaust air and I draw one duct, I can see that it draws as the green duct, and that means that it is belonging to the exhaust air system. Of course, we are still not going to start modeling, and I'm just showing you this so we can see how we create systems and how we use them. So if I want to, for example, create the system for the stairwell pressure, I will just duplicate one of these systems, and first I will rename it. Let's just call it this way, and I will also assign it some different colors so it doesn't show the same color as something else, and let's just add it some darker red, for example, and I will click OK. And once I created the new duct, I can choose that system instead of this one. I choose stairwell pressure, and once I create it, as you can see, the different color is applied. And this way you create the new system for both piping and for both ducts. I'm going to delete those and I'm going to go to one floor plan. And the next step is essentially creating the spaces. Spaces for the MEP projects are pretty much the same as the room for architectural project, and essentially we are going to be duplicating these rooms from the architectural project. First step we have to do, however, is we have to select this model, we have to go to edit type, and we have to make sure that this model is room bounding so we can copy the room from it. I click OK, and next I go to the Analyze tab and I go to the space. Now you can add these spaces manually. All you would have to do is essentially click on this space and you get the space that has its number, it has its name, which you have to rename. But as I said, this is not the good option. You do want to actually copy the spaces from the architectural model. So you click on space and you click on play spaces automatically. It's going to tell us how many spaces it created. And I'm going to do that for each of the levels that we have. And as you can see now, all of these spaces are created, but we do need to actually rename them and to actually assign them the proper number. We also do this automatically by going to the space naming option, and here we are going to choose whether we want to take away from that architectural model's names and number, or only numbers or only names. I do want to take both names and numbers, so I make sure this first option is selected, and then I click OK. And as you can see now, all of these spaces are automatically renamed, and also numbers have changed as well to follow the architectural model. Once you select one of these spaces, now you can see a lot of information about it. And when it comes to spaces, essentially all of these spaces are single rooms, but you are going to also be needing the zones. And it's different for zones, because if we look, for example, in this apartment, basically all of these are different spaces, and when we are creating the calculations, we actually do want to create these as the separate zones. I do want to, for example, create this one apartment as the single zone, because that is going to be actually using the same system in one zone. So I'm going to go to the Analyze, and I'm going to go to the Zoning tab. Here I'm going to choose by space. You can also, by the way, choose by sketch if you want to manually sketch these zones, but I'm going to choose by space, and I'm going to select each room that belongs to this space. As I said, I'm going to be adding all of these rooms, so I click each room and I add it to the same space. Then I'm going to click on remove space to get rid of this gym that was added automatically, because I only want to include these apartment rooms into this zone. So once I'm done with all that, I click finish editing zone. I will do one more apartment as well, so let's do this smaller one. So I go to the by space option, and I'm going to click on add space, and I will add these two rooms that belong to it and click finish. And if you want to see better how these zones looks, I go to the color scheme option, and for the system zones you can turn on the schemes to see them into these separate colors. This is the easiest way to separate them visually to make sure that none of these spaces are belonging to the wrong zone. You also want to add the proper name to your zone, so make sure to not forget this. For example, I'm going to add the name of ground floor apartment 01. I'm then going to do the same for this other zone as well. I just copy this, and essentially you do have the freedom to name these zones however you want. You just have to make sure that it's very systematic, so you don't kind of get lost around the model in terms of which zone belongs to the which set of spaces. Once you select the zone, you can see these parameters that are going to be existing in your project. And now you're ready to actually start modeling and to continue with your project, and this way you have set up all of these main stuff. If you want to see any more lessons on the MEP projects, post in the comments below about which lessons you are interested in seeing. And if you like my content, like and subscribe, it helps my channel grow. And thank you for watching, and see you in the next lesson. Bye! If you want to learn Revit like a pro, take a look at my architectural course through the link below. You will learn how to develop the project from concept to final design using Autodesk Revit. It is ideal for beginners, but valuable for anyone looking to build a solid foundation. By the end, you'll know how to take a design from concept to detailed documentation with confidence and clarity. You will gain a solid Revit workflow you can actually use independently or in work in larger teams in architectural studios. With almost 100 structured video lessons, it is designed to help beginners master Revit step by step. To support your progress, I've included assignments with each lesson, plus the opportunity to ask questions and receive guidance directly from me whenever you need it. This way, you're not just watching tutorials, you're actively learning, practicing, and improving every step of the way. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.